The situation of Sudanese women rights defenders is one of the worst in the world today. Actually, Sudanese women activists across the last 5 years since the revolution of 2019 were the leaders in the process of democratization and led the political change in Sudan. And they have been targeted along the way for the last 5 or 6 years by different authorities that took control of the country. The process of militarization of Sudan in the last 3 years have uh, um, imposed lots of restrictions on the work of women rights activists and defenders, human rights organizations. The current conflicts has increased this pressure to the extent that most of women rights activists has actually lost their capacity to work, despite the resilience they had. But they have become victims of smearing campaigns online, victims of arrest, detentions, and accusations of collaboration with different parties of the world. It has led some of them to be detained and tortured and even sexually abused. Some of the women activists who have been working from outside Sudan, they also receive threats. They are also sometimes denied from accessing Sudanese nationality and identification documentation because of their work in advocating human rights in Sudan. Um, as for sexual violence in particular, there is huge efforts have been done, especially by women activists and women groups on the ground to respond to mass crisis of conflict-related sexual violence in Sudan. This response included documentation and monitoring. One of the most important informations that has been published recently in the last year, for example, by Human Rights Watch, has clearly documented how the role of locally led women organization was in responding and documenting, and the resources and information that they have collected have also been shared with the both fact-finding mission, the African fact-finding mission, and the UN fact-finding mission to contribute to the reports that have been laid out today. Women activists, in addition to the political oppression and detention, they are also facing technical and operational and funding shortages, the shutdown of communication and internet across the country, the high prices of accessing communication tools like Starlink, the also during this war, which is we can clearly call it the war of looting. So many women organizations and activists have lost their tools of documentation, their smartphone, their laptops. So, despite all of these challenges and low capacities, women-led organizations have been fighting resiliently, and I'm very proud of their courage across the country, because as we all know, women are always the ones who actually hold communities together. And because we are the ones who stay behind, lots of the responsibilities fall on our shoulders. That include, of course, holding those who are committing all of these war crimes accountable. And this is one of the major reasons that actually makes so many women groups and women activists. Even we are seeing lots of emerging women organizations and young women organizations entering the field of documentation and monitoring after this conflict, to make sure that the information that is being covered from the international community can reach it. But all of this is happening under very, very complicated circumstances in so many areas. We can just say that Sudan is a very big prison for women activists. My own colleagues on the ground to make sure that the informations they have can reach to the international community. Sometimes they cannot use their phones for months. They have to bury them on the ground to make sure that their phones are not looted and safe. So the levels of threats and risks where women-led organizations are working on are huge in Sudan at this moment, especially when documenting sexual violence. We have documented so many cases where women activists and even physicians who are dealing with the cases have been actually targeted and threatened, and some of them were detained by both fighting parties. It is very critical situation where women organizations and women activists working on inside Sudan at the moment. But I think the international community need to recognize this courage and support them. Thank you.